Adam, so you've been quite involved in the rebuild in West Kelowna.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So how's that going? Like, do you have any houses still on the go right now, or how is that?
We do. All the houses we're building right now are for the rebuilds currently, except for one of them. I guess it's mine, but I bought the lot. So,
yeah.
But it's a rebuild. It's going great. I mean, it's had some challenges. I would say WFN, where most of them are, have been a great to deal with. The way that they've kind of helped the clients, and there's always challenging with builds wherever you're doing it. So I would say, that's kind of subjective. But the big challenge for me has been dealing with the insurance of people, and how I would say some people are kind of been taken advantage of with their insurance, and, being underinsured and not understanding their insurance policies. And a lot of times, like, I don't know if you guys have ever read your insurance policy, but it's a tough read. Yeah. Like, it is a tough fucking read, man. Like,
on purpose.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with that. It's 100% on purpose. And what they'll tell you is, oh, you got 100% replacement costs. You got this, you got that. And they give you this like fairy dust feeling of, okay, we're good to go. But you're not. And you need to really dig in. What am I covered for? What is excluded? Why? How can we make it excluded? What are you assessing my rebuild value at? Have you done a bunch of renovations to your home and now your home's value goes up to whatever? Like, those things are relevant. And the problem is insurance, their job, I hate to say it, but their job is to make sure you don't get that money. Like, that's how they make money, is by not paying you out, right? Yeah. So obviously I would say not everyone's like that, but that's how insurance works. So you really need to do your due diligence on your policies and make sure you're covered. One of the calls I got this year was a guy who was, very distraught because he lost his home in that fire, and he was offered $500K on a $1.4 million house, and he still had a mortgage left, and he was, basically told to get, pound sand. And that was terrible. This guy's crying and like, I lost my house.
And this is somebody who has insurance.
Yeah, he had insurance.
He's covered.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what's so sad to me is like, and I really wish there was a level of accountability for these insurance companies where they're like, okay, you just bought this place, you're doing this or that. This is the value you need to be insured for. Let's figure out how we do that. Because other than that, how are you assessing value? How are they? Like, and who's doing that? Like,
there's got to be a liability associated to that.
That's what I'm saying. There has to be accountability. And like, again, we mentioned this off air, but one of the properties I had just reinsured, they had me reinsured for, I think it was like under $200 a square foot to rebuild. Although this house is something I would tear down, that is still impossible to do. So that was just what they gave me. But I'm like, how did you come up with that number? How did you figure that out? Because it doesn't make sense. So then I had to go back and go, well, I'm a builder and there's no way this is possible. So let's relook at this and then do it. And obviously my premiums went up and everything, whatever, but that's what you got to do. So
are you working with people over there that were well insured?
I would say two of them. Out of all of them that I've worked with, that I've even heard of. And I'll say it, TD Insurance was one that has done so well for one of my clients, and the way that they've handled everything, I was really impressed.
Okay.
And even dealing with them now, we've had a lot of geotechnical issues where there's a retaining wall next to one of my clients' houses that we're worried that it could come down. And so we've kind of gone back and forth saying like, hey, we need more money. Like, a lot of that lot was all sand, so it had very not good structural material there. Yeah. So, going back and forth with them and for additional charges because of what's right, they're just like, yeah, we'll figure it out. So I would say I was super impressed with some of them, but not all of them are like that for sure.
So people should read their insurance policies.
People should dig
obviously
into
we're
that.
through this fire season, but like, next one's coming.
Yeah, and I just not even that. Like, I'm actually meeting with a guy on Friday. Sunny, his house burnt down because of electrical fire. So you need to know, like, and he is insured well and he's going to do okay. But if you're not, what are you going to do? Like, what's the plan there? Because if you have to come up with $500K to rebuild your house, for most people, that's going to be a real big problem.
What about things like these fires were a year
August 17th last year.
Yeah. So that's over a year. You're still building these houses. So this is like looking like 2 years.
For sure.
People are out. So I guess for your insurance company, you got to figure out that. Also.
Well, and what are they covering for your live out?
Yeah.
Like, that's a big question because in the event it's a total loss, you're going to have to live somewhere for a year and a half at least.
It's not just one person. Like, we're talking
your whole family.
Pets.
Exactly.
RVs,
new clothes, new food.
Well, we've spoken about that too with like Airbnb now taking off the market. Like, where do people go?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You gotta find a full single family house to rent somewhere when there's a housing shortage.
Which is a huge cost, and which is why I think it's so funny on how things are so delayed in the insurance industry. Why are you taking 7 months to make decisions on shit when you're paying for these people's live outs, food, all this stuff? Like, what's happening? Why are we not just going, okay, this is the value? This is, I hate to say it, but it's because they're like, well, where can we keep this money? not where can we give it, right?
Yeah.
That sucks. One of my clients, Don and Gail, the sweetest couple, they're older, and their house burnt down, and they've lived there for 25 years, something like that. Never had a claim, never had any issues basically at all. And they lost their house, and they're like being battled to cover their septic system. And I'm like, well, you can't build a new house without a new septic. This isn't allowed. So why would that not be a part of the build? And that's like $30,000, $40,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, why should they come up with that? And a lot of the other insurances are covering it. So I'm like, why are you doing that? Right. And it's just stuff like that where you're like, these people lost everything, and now you're going to battle them on something that's clearly a part of making a new house. Whether you like it or not, you got to have somewhere for that to go. Yeah. So why should they cover that? You know? So it's just stuff like that where I'm like, man, it frustrates me that that's what has happened. But, you know, at the end of the day, I just want people to do their own due diligence and dig in and look at your policies and really do your homework, because I don't want any more of those calls from someone like that who lost their house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
When you're doing the build, do you talk to the insurance company? Like,
I do everything within client kind of relations and podcasts.
Yeah.
But I do everything with the people. I'm better with the people than I am at building. I do have a business partner. His name's Dan. Pivotal part of my team. He's a journeyman carpenter who's a great builder, and we've got a good team together, and his end is a lot more on that side than it is mine, to be honest. Yeah. So I do talk to insurance. I've actually helped clients kind of battle insurance to get what they could out of them, even if I don't get the job, which I didn't on a couple of them. Yeah. But a lot of it's just doing what I think is right is what's important, and everything comes around if you do that, in my opinion.
Love to hear it.
Yeah.
What's your slogan? It should be for the people, you know? Like, you guys have anything?
I don't
like, we're getting into the political season.
I don't have a slogan. I wish I did, but I don't. Yeah.